Mark's peaceful life shatters when his alien wife, Nera, vanishes without a trace. Desperate to protect their daughter, Leia, from a world steeped in prejudice, Mark embarks on a journey across the cosmos to find her. As secrets unfold, Mark must confront love, sacrifice, and moral dilemmas that test his humanity. Can you survive the truth? If you want to dive into real stories of parallel realities every day, in enigmatic, technological worlds that are completely different from our planet, subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Well, let's go. Mark awoke to the familiar, soft sound of wind rustling outside, but something was wrong. The bed felt colder than usual, the warmth of another body no longer beside him. His heart quickened as he reached out, only to feel the empty space where Nera should have been. Panic gripped him like a vice. He shot upright, his eyes scanning the dark room, hoping to catch a glimpse of her form, but there was nothing. Just an unsettling stillness that seemed to seep into his bones. Nera, his beloved companion of 8 years, was gone. No note, no sound of departure. Just, gone. His thoughts raced as he stumbled out of bed. The room seemed eerily unfamiliar, despite being the home they had built together. The soft blue light of the morning crept through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. Mark's pulse pounded in his ears. What could have happened? She wouldn't just leave, not like this. Not without a word. As his mind spiraled with questions, one overwhelming fear began to rise. Leia. He had to check on their daughter. Leia was the center of their world, their fragile link to a future they weren't sure they could navigate. A product of their unconventional union, Leia was only 7 years old and already facing the brutal realities of a world that didn't quite accept her existence. Half human, half alien, she was a symbol of everything that made their family unique, and a target for society's unrelenting prejudice. Mark crossed the hallway quickly, his heart heavy with dread. He gently pushed open the door to Leia's room and was met with the sound of her steady breathing. Relief washed over him. She was still there, still safe. He stood for a moment, watching her small form rise and fall with each breath, her skin softly reflecting the pale morning light. Her skin had a faint luminescence, a subtle glow inherited from her mother's alien lineage, and her long, silver hair shimmered in the dim light. Leia stirred slightly, her large violet eyes fluttering open as she sensed her father's presence. She blinked sleepily at him, her expression innocent and unaware of the turmoil building inside him. "Daddy?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark forced a smile, though his mind was already spinning with worry. How could he explain that Nera had vanished without a trace? That he had no answers for the questions Leia would inevitably ask? He couldn't. Not yet. "Go back to sleep, sweetheart," Mark said gently, stepping back and closing the door quietly. But the calm facade he had put on for his daughter shattered the moment the door clicked shut. His mind raced through every possibility, from abduction to something far more sinister. Had their past finally caught up to them? Nera was no ordinary woman. She was from a distant star system, a fugitive of sorts who had sought refuge on Earth. They had spent years building a quiet life together, keeping their true origins a secret, but they had always known the day might come when the world beyond Earth would come for them. The real problem, however, was not just Nera's sudden disappearance. It was what would happen now. Society had never been kind to them. Their small community barely tolerated their presence, murmurs of prejudice trailing them wherever they went. Mark had grown used to the whispers, the sideways glances, the veiled insults. But Leia, she was still young, vulnerable. Mark had fought to shield her from the worst of it, but he knew that wouldn't last forever. Rumors had already begun to spread throughout the town. Mark and Nera's relationship was viewed with suspicion, and the existence of their daughter only made things worse. It was only a matter of time before the authorities took a more invasive interest in their lives. As Mark paced back and forth in the small living room, he could feel the weight of the community's distrust pressing in on him, suffocating him. He glanced at the clock, noting the hours that had passed since he first realized Nera was gone. Where could she be? His mind shifted between hope and despair. She could be in danger, or she could have left to protect them. But why would she go without a word? The fear gnawed at him, tightening his chest with every passing moment. The people in their town were already on edge about his family. An alien wife, a daughter who wasn't entirely human. Mark had become accustomed to the whispered judgments, the thinly veiled hostility. And now, with Nera gone, it was only a matter of time before suspicions began to escalate into something worse. Outside, the sky was brightening, and the world was beginning to stir. Mark knew that soon the questions would come. The neighbors would notice Nera's absence. They would talk, and if word got out to the authorities, there would be no way to avoid their scrutiny. He had to hold everything together, for Leia's sake. He couldn't let their fragile family be torn apart by prejudice and fear. But beneath his outward resolve, Mark's mind was a whirlwind of unanswered questions. Where was Nera? What had happened to her? He feared the worst but dared not voice it, even in the silence of his own mind. The possibilities stretched before him like an abyss, each more terrifying than the last. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to think logically. Nera was smart, resourceful. If she had left on her own, there had to be a reason. Perhaps she had discovered something, some threat they hadn't anticipated. But why leave without a word? Why vanish without a trace? It didn't make sense, and that was what frightened him the most. He was used to the unknown, to living in the shadows of secrets, but this was different. This was personal, visceral. A cold breeze slipped in through a crack in the window, and Mark shivered involuntarily. His mind churned as he considered his options. He needed to find Nera, but how? And what would he tell Leia in the meantime? His daughter was perceptive, far more so than other children her age. She would sense that something was wrong, no matter how hard he tried to shield her from the truth. Mark knew that he couldn't keep this facade up for long. The stakes were too high, and time was running out. He felt the pressure mounting, the weight of his responsibility pressing down on him. He had to protect Leia. He had to find Nera. But he was only one man, an ordinary man caught up in an extraordinary situation. And the world around him was growing darker, more dangerous, by the second. Stay with us as Mark's desperate quest across the cosmos unravels truths that could tear his world apart. Discover how far one father will go to protect his family and uncover the mysteries hidden among the stars. Dark shadows loomed over Mark's heart as he began to grasp the depth of societal prejudices against Leia. Every sidelong glance, every half-whispered conversation in the corridors of Leia's school felt like a sharpened blade. Earth, already embroiled in a simmering tension between human and alien populaces, proved to be a volatile environment for those like his daughter. Leia, a blend of human and extraterrestrial heritage, stood as an unintentional symbol of both unity and division, the world refusing to accept what its narrow mindset could not comprehend. The visits from government agents became a relentless parade of intrusion into their lives. They wore dark suits that seemed to blend seamlessly into the tension-filled atmosphere they carried. Minimalistic devices on their wrists pulsed with faint lights that matched the rhythm of their probing questions. Each session stripped away layers of Mark's sanity, peeling back the veneer of his controlled composure. "Have you noticed any unusual behaviors?" they would ask, as if Leia was a creature to be studied, not his daughter. Their presence was suffocating, their questions invasive. The rhetoric was always wrapped in the guise of concern for public safety, but Mark could see through the thinly veiled prejudice and fear. It was an insult to the sanctity of their home and family. But it wasn't just the agents that magnified Mark's growing dread, it was the whispers and rumors that permeated every corner of their community. Even without explicit confrontation, the weight of social scrutiny pressed down on them with crushing severity. Leia, still young and trying to understand her place between two worlds, faced bullying that escalated to dangerous levels once her unique abilities began to emerge. The incident that changed everything happened on an overcast afternoon. It began like any other day, with Mark dropping Leia off at school, her face a mix of determination and trepidation. By midday, however, the tranquility of their suburban environment was shattered when Leia, pushed beyond her breaking point by a particularly cruel bout of harassment, inadvertently triggered a collapse of the school's electrical grid. It was a cataclysm of cascading electrical failures, surges igniting against the flickering lights, alarms blaring through the thick, oppressive atmosphere of panic and confusion. Leia's eyes had glowed with an otherworldly light, her hands sparking with energy, as if she was a conduit for a force beyond earthly comprehension. In that moment, she became both a victim and a beacon of fear. The very air around her crackled with electricity as chaos ensued, students and teachers alike scrambling in desperation. It was clear they could no longer stay. The incident at the school confirmed what Mark had dreaded all along. For their safety, they needed to escape Earth's clutches. Nights became filled with silent tears and anguished thoughts, as Mark devised a plan to protect his daughter. He knew it would be an arduous journey, yet the choice was clear. The decision to leave Earth was heartbreaking. It meant leaving behind the only life they had known, but it was the only way to secure Leia's future. The sanctuary they once called home was no longer safe. Embracing the ambiguity of their decision, Mark needed to find solace in their next steps. He reached out to contacts he had once considered allies, individuals who believed in the possibility of coexistence between humans and aliens. Through clandestine networks, he secured passage on a cargo ship bound for the hinterlands of the universe, a vessel meant for transporting goods to far-off outposts but now repurposed for one family's escape. The cargo ship, a hulking mass of rusty metal and mismatched repairs, became their salvation. It lacked the sleek, polished aesthetics of advanced spacecraft, but it promised anonymity and a chance at freedom. With minimal crew and mostly automated systems, it was the perfect vessel for their clandestine flight. As they boarded the ship under the faint glow of distant stars, Leia looked up at her father with eyes that held both fear and hope. Mark's heart ached at leaving their home but also swelled with determination to face whatever lay ahead. He knew the journey would be fraught with challenges, but the thought of a place where Leia could grow without fear kept his resolve unwavering. The ship's engines roared to life, vibrating with raw power, echoing through the metal walls as they ascended from Earth's surface. As they broke through the atmosphere, Mark watched the planet grow smaller in the viewport, a distant blue marble suspended in the vast expanse of space. The reality of their exodus settled over him like a shroud. The weeks that followed were grueling, both physically and emotionally. The cargo ship, while functional, was a far cry from comfort. They made do with the cramped quarters and scant resources, Mark using what little he knew of primitive interstellar navigation systems to chart a course toward the unknown. Each day blended into the next, the monotony broken only by the occasional mechanical issues that required immediate attention. Leia's burgeoning abilities continued to manifest in unexpected ways, mostly in moments of heightened emotion or stress. One evening, as they floated through the inky darkness, Leia's frustration with her surroundings caused the ship's control panel to flicker erratically. Mark worked tirelessly to reassure her, to help her understand that her powers, though formidable, did not make her a danger but rather a force of potential good. As they pressed on through the vastness of space, a looming dread settled in. This would only be the beginning of their trials. The unknown stretches of the cosmos promised peril and wonder alike. Mark reflected on the ethical implications that surrounded the treatment of his daughter. Leia, a bridge between worlds, embodied the complexities and potentials of interspecies unity. Yet, the very characteristics that made her remarkable also made her a target. As the ship drifted further from Earth, the oppressive weight of societal expectations began to lift. Mark found that liberation brought clarity and a sharpened focus on the moral quandaries that had begun to define their existence. The universe was a boundless frontier, filled with both the peril of prejudice and the promise of acceptance. The ethical conundrum of Leia's abilities became a focal point for reflection. They had been considered a danger by those on Earth, but Mark began to see them as a symbol of resilience and a harbinger for the future of coexistence. Empowering Leia to hone her abilities became a directive born out of necessity, balancing the desire to protect her with the drive to help her understand and control her powers responsibly. As days and weeks melted into one another, Mark and Leia developed a routine, fostering both a semblance of normalcy and a close-knit bond that transcended their struggles. The sporadic lights of distant stars served as their only companions, silently witnessing the genesis of their journey through the cosmos. They encountered barren planets and asteroid fields, each celestial body a testament to the void's indifferent majesty. Their isolation was broken intermittently by cryptic transmissions from passing spacecraft. These exchanges, though brief, provided both comfort and trepidation. The desolate void of space stretched interminably before them as the cargo ship ventured further from Earth than Mark could have ever imagined. The hum of the ship's engines served as a constant reminder of their escape, a stark contrast to the serene whisper of the cosmos. Leia sat in the co-pilot seat, her small fingers absently tracing patterns on the touchscreen display. Her eyes, however, were focused far beyond the screen, lost in thoughts that churned as turbulent as the space they now traveled. As days turned into weeks, the vastness of space began to weigh heavily on Mark's shoulders. They had secured passage on the cargo ship through a mixture of desperate pleading and the last of their earthly savings. The vessel itself was a patchwork of outdated technology and rusted metal, held together more by luck than engineering brilliance. For Mark, each creak and groan of the ship was a reminder of both their precarious situation and their desperate hope for a safe harbor. Their destination was uncertain, the stars outside their viewport unfamiliar and ever-changing. Navigating through uncharted regions of the galaxy, Mark often found himself lost in the glow of distant nebulas and the shadows of looming asteroid fields. Leia, despite her youth, appeared more resilient than Mark had anticipated. Her powers, though raw and unrefined, acted as a conduit between them and the cosmos, almost as if guiding their ship through the perils of space. One night, or what passed for night in the endless darkness, Mark woke to find Leia standing at the viewport, her eyes glistening with an inner light. She turned to him, her voice an ethereal echo of her own thoughts. "Something is out there, Dad. Something's calling us." Before he could respond, the ship's systems began to flicker. Lights dimmed and then surged, the dashboard of controls casting eerie shadows across the small cabin. Mark rushed to the controls, but Leia's calm demeanor assured him that this was no attack, nor technical malfunction. "A signal," she whispered, placing a hand on the glass as if trying to reach out to the stars themselves. Suddenly, the sensors on the bridge lit up, displaying an enormous alien vessel materializing out of the void. It appeared with a grace that belied its size, dwarfing their humble craft like a whale alongside a minnow. The ship was exquisitely alien, adorned with symbols and technology far beyond human comprehension. It shimmered in hues of blue and silver, almost as if its structure were fluid, adapting to the space around it. Mark's breath caught in his throat. "Who are they?" Leia's gaze remained locked on the vessel. "The Celestials." Communications crackled to life, a stream of sonorous tones and complex frequencies interweaving into something intelligible. Mark leaned forward as the celestial representative's voice resonated through the cabin. It was neither male nor female, speaking in a harmony of pitches that echoed through the very walls of their ship. "Travelers, we extend our greetings. Your journey has intersected with our domain. We offer safe passage and assistance." Mark exchanged a glance with Leia, who nodded. "We need help," Mark transmitted back. "We're searching for someone, a family member taken from us." There was a pause, during which the celestial ship hovered silently, its presence almost a comfort against the backdrop of endless space. Then the voice responded, "We have observed the disturbance in your path, a convergence of fates. Join us, and we shall aid you." The docking procedure was seamless, a masterclass in advanced engineering. As they were pulled into the celestial ship, Mark marveled at its interior. Translucent corridors beyond their wildest dreams stretched into infinity, filled with a radiant light that seemed to pulse with life itself. The walls were embedded with what appeared to be living machines, pulsating in synchronization with the hum of the ship, an advanced symbiosis that challenged human understanding. Awaiting them as they disembarked was the celestial envoy. Towering at an impressive height, the celestial's form was adorned with flowing garments that shimmered with an ever-changing pattern of colors and symbols. They had a serene, androgynous face, with eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of millennia. "I am Lithara," the envoy intoned, their voice a melodic blend that filled the air like a symphony. "You have embarked on a journey that echoes throughout the annals of our lore. We shall assist you in your search for Nera." Leia's eyes widened with recognition and relief. "You know her?" Lithara nodded solemnly. "Nera is known to us, a beacon in the cosmic tapestry. Her path diverged into realms fraught with peril and promise. We shall illuminate the way." Under their guidance, Mark and Leia were led to an immense chamber, its center dominated by a luminous console displaying a holographic map of the galaxy. The intricacy of its design spoke to eons of celestial navigation and wisdom. Lithara motioned them closer, initiating a sequence that brought into focus the planet Orion, its orbit locked in a cluster of asteroids that emitted intermittent bursts of energy. "Orion," Lithara explained, "is a planet on the brink. War looms like a storm cloud, driven by forces both internal and external. Your Nera is there, intertwined with its fate." Mentorship under the Celestials began almost immediately. Leia, with her burgeoning abilities, received special attention. Advanced training regimens were tailored to her unique gifts, emphasizing control and discipline. The Celestials, masters of energy manipulation, taught her to harness her powers with precision. Using a combination of meditation, kinetic exercises, and exposure to various energy fields, Leia's abilities grew exponentially, though they came at a cost. The more control she gained, the more she became aware of the burdens her powers imposed. For Mark, the Celestials offered less tangible but equally crucial assistance. They guided him through their vast archives of knowledge, their histories of countless civilizations, and the many conflicts that mirrored his own experiences back on Earth. Mark's understanding of their predicament deepened, and with it, his resolve to protect Leia and rescue Nera solidified. Through their time with the Celestials, the true vastness and complexity of space unfolded before them. The myriad cultures, technologies, and philosophies were a humbling reminder of both their insignificance and potential. There were briefings on encounters between various species, the political machinations that defined interstellar relations, and the ethical dilemmas that came with such knowledge. Mark found himself drawn into the philosophical teachings of the Celestials. They conveyed the importance of balance, the interconnectedness of all beings, and the fine line between intervention and non-interference. It was a perspective starkly different from what he was accustomed to on Earth, where often might made right. The approach to Orion was tense, the atmosphere aboard the celestial ship thick with anticipation and fear. The planet loomed ahead, a globe of tumultuous seas and jagged mountain ranges, shrouded in a perpetual twilight. The rebels, led by Nera, had made their stand against a tyrannical regime known for its merciless rule and advanced weaponry. It was a volatile mix. Both sides seemed ready to ignite into full-scale war at any moment. Orion itself was a world of stark contrasts. Its cities were testaments to the ingenuity and resilience of its inhabitants, blending sleek architectural designs with the rugged natural landscape. The capital city, Melanar, was a sprawling metropolis pulsating with an uneasy energy. Skyscrapers rose defiantly against the darkened sky, their surfaces reflecting the dim light of Orion's twin moons. But beneath this facade of progress lay a society divided, teetering on the edge of collapse. Mark, peering through the viewport, couldn't help but feel a mixture of awe and dread. This world, so alien and yet so reminiscent of Earth in its strife, was now the staging ground for their daring rescue mission. He glanced at Leia, who was adjusting the control mechanisms with a practiced ease. The young girl's face, a complex blend of human and alien features, was set in a determined expression. Her powers, now more controlled and refined thanks to their time with the Celestials, flickered just beneath the surface, ready to be unleashed. Their contact on Orion, Zara, was a figure wrapped in mystery and intrigue. She was a native of this beleaguered world, her skin lined with bioluminescent patterns that shifted and glowed with her emotions. Zara's eyes, a deep violet, shimmered with intensity and intelligence. She was fearless, resourceful, and possessed an unwavering dedication to the rebel cause. But her alliance with Mark and Leia was driven not just by uprisings and warfare. She had personal stakes tied to Nera's fate. Meeting Zara was a lesson in covert operations. She navigated the underworld of Melanar with the finesse of a seasoned operative, leading them through a labyrinth of narrow alleys, hidden passages, and crowded marketplaces, all while avoiding the ever-watchful eyes of the regime's enforcers. Her familiarity with the city's layout was crucial. It was a living map etched into her mind through hardship and rebellion. They finally reached the rebel hideout, an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of metal and oil. Dim light filtered through broken windows, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The rebels, a diverse group of Orion natives and off-world sympathizers, gathered around, their faces a mix of hope and desperation. Every pair of eyes turned to Mark and Leia, the strangers who had come from the stars to aid in their struggle. The plan they crafted under Zara's guidance was bold and hazardous. They would need to infiltrate the regime's stronghold, a massive fortress perched atop a cliff overlooking the city. It was here that Nera was being held, her influence seen as both a threat and a potential bargaining chip by the oppressors. The fortress was a fortress in every sense. Its walls, bristling with weaponry and sensor arrays, seemed impenetrable. Leia's powers were their ace in the hole. As the day of the operation neared, she trained relentlessly, honing her abilities to warp electrical currents and manipulate energy fields. The Celestials' teachings had unlocked potentials within her that were nothing short of extraordinary, but with great power came the risk of uncontrollable force. Her young mind struggled to balance the scales between wielding her abilities and maintaining their stability. As they embarked on their perilous journey to the fortress, the air was charged with anticipation. Zara led the way through the rugged terrain, her knowledge guiding them past deadly traps and patrols. Every step was a dance with danger. The regime's forces were on high alert, their patrols relentless. The closer they got, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, as if the fortress itself was an entity consuming all hope and freedom. Inside the enemy stronghold, technological marvels clashed with the horrors of war. Steel corridors hummed with energy, and surveillance drones patrolled the hallways with unwavering vigilance. Automated turrets lined strategic points, ready to unleash devastation on any intruder. Mark marveled at the sight, a twisted beauty in the amalgamation of art and warcraft, yet his heart remained heavy with the looming threat. Navigating these perilous halls, Zara's resourcefulness proved invaluable. Her insider knowledge of the fortress's layout allowed them to bypass heavily guarded areas and find hidden maintenance shafts that snaked through the structure. It was crawling through one such shaft that Mark felt the gravity of their mission press down upon him. He could hear the murmur of soldiers, the hum of machinery, the distant sounds of a world caught in eternal conflict. Finally, they reached the detention block where Nera was held. The sterile environment was a stark contrast to the outside chaos, an eerie silence enveloping them. Cells lined the walls, each containing prisoners who had dared to defy the regime. Nera's cell was at the far end, fortified with energy barriers and guarded by elite soldiers. The sight of her, though gaunt and weary, filled Mark with a renewed sense of purpose. She was more than just a leader, she was a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope in a galaxy scarred by tyranny. The rescue unfolded with a precision that belied its difficulty. Leia's abilities dismantled security systems and neutralized threats with an efficiency that left even Zara in awe. Yet, just as they reached Nera, the alarm blared through the hallways, a siren cry that echoed their location. The fortress lit up in chaos, soldiers mobilizing to pursue the intruders. Nera, weak but determined, had no time for reunion. She knew the stakes, recognized the sacrifices that had been made, and urged them to leave without delay. Their retreat was a frantic sprint through the labyrinthine corridors, Leia's powers creating barriers and disruptions to slow their pursuers. But as they reached the outer walls, an ambush awaited them. Cornered, it was Nera's turn to make the ultimate sacrifice. She turned to Mark, her eyes locking onto his with a love that transcended words. With a final, desperate surge of energy, she unleashed a force that sent shockwaves through the fortress, creating an opportunity for escape but sealing her fate. The ground beneath their feet quaked, walls crumbling, alarms wailing in a cacophony of structural collapse. Tears streamed down Leia's face as they were pulled to safety by Zara, their hearts heavy with loss. The fortress behind them crumbled into ruins, a testament to the high cost of their freedom. The planet Arian, with its dual suns casting a warm, amber glow over the horizon, became a sanctuary for Mark and Leia in the wake of their harrowing journey. The loss of Nera weighed heavily on them both, but in this alien world, they found a chance to heal, to rebuild, and to redefine what home truly meant. Arian was a world of contrasts, its landscapes a tapestry of rugged mountains, lush forests, and vast deserts that stretched beyond the eye could see. The cities, built with a blend of ancient architecture and advanced technology, were vibrant with life. Towering spires made of crystalline material shimmered in the sunlight, while below, the streets buzzed with the diverse voices of Arian's inhabitants, humans, aliens, and hybrids living together in a fragile but hopeful peace. Mark and Leia were welcomed into a community that, despite the scars of war, was determined to forge a future based on cooperation and mutual respect. The inhabitants of Arian, having endured their own struggles, understood the pain of loss and the yearning for a place to belong. They saw in Leia a symbol of the potential for unity between species, her mixed heritage and burgeoning powers a testament to the strength that came from embracing diversity. Leia, though still grieving the loss of her mother, found solace in the acceptance she received from the people of Arian. Unlike Earth, where her abilities had been feared and misunderstood, here they were celebrated. Under the guidance of Arian's wise leaders and with the support of her father, Leia began to refine her powers, learning to harness them not just as a means of defense, but as tools for healing and growth. Mark, too, found a renewed sense of purpose. On Arian, his knowledge and experience were invaluable. He joined efforts to rebuild the planet's war-torn infrastructure, working alongside engineers and scientists from across the galaxy. The projects they undertook were ambitious, restoring power grids, rebuilding cities, and ensuring that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. Mark's determination to create a safe and stable environment for Leia drove him, and in the process, he earned the respect of those around him. One of the most significant challenges they faced was the integration of the various factions that had once been at war. Arian's society was fractured, with deep-seated mistrust lingering between the different groups. The human settlers, who had arrived decades earlier, were viewed with suspicion by the native Arionians, while the rebels, once led by Nera, struggled to find their place in the new order. Leia, with her unique perspective, became a key figure in these efforts. Her empathy and innate understanding of both human and alien cultures allowed her to mediate disputes and foster dialogue between the different groups. She led by example, showing that cooperation and mutual respect were not just ideals, but practical solutions to the challenges they faced. As the months passed, the hard work of rebuilding began to bear fruit. The cities of Arian, once ravaged by conflict, were transformed into bustling centers of trade, culture, and learning. New alliances were forged, not just between the inhabitants of Arian, but with other planets and civilizations across the galaxy. These connections brought new opportunities for trade, exchange of knowledge, and collaboration on projects that would benefit all. Mark and Leia's home on Arian was modest by the standards of this new world, a small dwelling on the outskirts of one of the rebuilt cities. But it was filled with warmth and love, a refuge from the turmoil they had endured. The walls of their home were adorned with mementos from their journey, a piece of the cargo ship that had brought them to Arian, a holographic image of Nera that flickered softly in the corner, and a collection of artifacts from the various worlds they had visited. In the evenings, as the twin suns set and the sky filled with the shimmering light of distant stars, Mark and Leia would sit together, reflecting on their journey. They spoke of Nera often, keeping her memory alive through stories and shared memories. Leia, in particular, found comfort in these moments, knowing that while her mother was gone, her legacy lived on in the work they were doing to build a better world. One of the most profound lessons Mark learned during this time was that home was not a place, but a feeling, a sense of belonging that came from the people he loved and the purpose they shared. On Arian, they were no longer running from their past but embracing the possibilities of the future. The bonds they had forged with the people of Arian, and with each other, were stronger than any force in the universe. As the years passed, Arian flourished, becoming a beacon of hope in a galaxy still reeling from conflict. The society that Mark and Leia helped to build was one that valued diversity, empathy, and cooperation. The alliances they had forged ensured that Arian would remain a place of peace and prosperity, a testament to the power of unity in the face of adversity. Leia grew into a strong and wise leader, her abilities honed and her spirit unbroken. She continued the work her mother had begun, advocating for the rights of all beings and striving to ensure that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. Under her guidance, Arian became a model for other planets, demonstrating that even in the aftermath of war, it was possible to build a society based on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. Mark, now a revered figure on Arian, found contentment in the knowledge that he had done everything he could to protect his daughter and to honor the memory of his wife. His journey had been long and fraught with danger, but it had led him to a place where he could finally find peace. He knew that the future would hold new challenges, but he was ready to face them, knowing that with Leia by his side, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. As they stood together on the balcony of their home, looking out over the thriving city below, Mark and Leia felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had come a long way from the uncertainty and fear that had once defined their lives. Now, they were part of something greater, a community, a family, and a world that they had helped to shape. In the end, they realized that the true meaning of home was not defined by where they were, but by the love and resilience that bound them together. No matter how vast and daunting the universe might be, they knew that as long as they were together, they would always find their way. And as the stars above twinkled in the night sky, they knew that their journey, though full of trials, had brought them to a place of lasting peace, a new home, where they could finally be at rest. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.